Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite team in the Bay Area. And today we're opening up the mailbag, answering some of your questions, including which move would I undo for the Sharks of the last 5 years? Who would I go on a road trip with? And we have a ton of Eklund and Bordeleau questions. So going to answer all those and more here on today's episode of Locked On Sharks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at Fear the Fit and San Jose Hockey Now. I want to thank you guys, of course, for making us your first listen. We're free and available wherever you get a podcast. And, of course, subscribe to us on YouTube. We have hit our 1,000, but that is just the first step in trying to make this the best damn podcast that I can make it. So, again, thank you guys for your subscriptions and helping support the show as we continue to kind of grow and find our own path here now. But today, I asked the mailbag, open up the mailbag. You guys sent in a bunch of amazing questions, so we're going to get into those. But first, I just want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered the season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. So throughout the mailbag, you guys, there's a whole wide range of questions. So let's just go ahead and get into it because there's a bunch of questions here. So Will Martin 001 asked, how badly are the Sharks wasting this draft year by not having a GM named? And then do they risk choosing players that won't fit the future GM's mold? And how is this glacially placed GM search actually beneficial? All right, let's start at the top there. Are the Sharks wasting this year's? No. All right. Doug Wilson Sr. didn't really do too much of the draft, right? That was Doug Wilson Jr. and Tim Burke's job to kind of run the draft. And then they would say, here's the guy we want type of thing. And then Doug Wilson would be like, okay, cool. So no, I don't think they're wasting this year's draft, right? And especially because with this GM search, they want to try to find someone who fits into the ideas that they have, right? They're with their draft, they're trying to get intelligent forwards. They're trying to get mobile puck moving defensemen like this. You've been building with these type of players for the next couple of years. So you assume whoever they hire thinks that they're going to be able to come in and, use all of, your 2020 draft class and Eklund. And, this is going to be the mold of the new Sharks team going forward. You would think that they would be excited about it and that they would want to continue to use, this kind of blueprint that the Sharks have been going forward with it. So no, I don't think so, because if not, basically the past, 3 years have been a waste if that's the case, if they're just going to kind of tear it down. And we've heard, from everybody who has a microphone placed in front of them, they don't want to tear it down. They believe in this core, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like whoever the GM is going to kind of come in and want to try to, they're going to put their own stamp on the team, but like they're going to want to try to work with the pieces that they have, which is probably why it's been such a slow process. And, with it being a slow process, I think too, you'd rather it be a slow process and make sure you get the right person than just jump into another GM and then they're not the right person, they're not the right fit, they don't have the right plan. And then 3 years from now, you're kind of starting from scratch again. So I'm fine with it taking in place again, like whoever comes in or was going to come in, like all the kind of work for the most part with the draft has been done. And, and like, I don't, even if they got hired, at the beginning of the summer, that's still not a lot of work to basically have to redo the entire draft process. I mean, these scouts are working year round on getting information and scouting and getting the reports and talking to everybody and their mother who's related to this scout. A new GM's not going to come in like 6 weeks before the draft and just throw everything away and restart. Like, they're going to use what's there. So maybe they might kind of shift and change some of their tendencies, but the work that's being done right now, that's been done by the Sharks scouting, like that's what's going to go into this draft. And yeah, I'm not worried about it. With the GM, again, I'd rather them have the right person than, and take their time than just whoever. So I think we're going to be getting some news here soon, especially as the Cup Finals are going to be drawing to a close. If they haven't finished tonight, whenever they finish, we'll start to, I bet, see a ramp up of that. And having somebody in place before free agency is more important than having somebody in place before the draft, because again, the draft people, they kind of just run the thing, and they you want to trust your scouts to do that. So next question, Jameson N10 asks, if you could undo one move, signing, trade, draft, etc., made in the last 5 years, what would it be? This is a pretty easy one for me. The re-signing of Vander Kane after they traded for him. The trade, perfectly fine, whatever. They were trying to win a cup that year. Didn't work out, et cetera, et cetera. But I think a lot of the Sharks' issues and a lot of stuff that's happened since then can be kind of pointed to when Evander Kane got re-signed. So let's kind of go back in the timeline, right? So Evander Kane, he gets traded for February 2018 season. So, he comes in, he plays well for the Sharks. And then that summer, they give him a 7x7 contract, right? And that was a summer where they were trying to add another big name to the team. So if it was, they were trying to get John Tavares, they ended up in that September trading for Erik Karlsson, right? So remember the timeline. So they had money kind of set away that they were going to either pay John Tavares or whoever they traded for. So that money was kind of tagged away for those, whoever that was, right? They go through the 2018-19 season. Unfortunately, they don't win, they don't win the cup. Joe Pavelski dies for our sins, et cetera, et cetera. That offseason, remember now, they had to re-sign Erik Karlsson, which they did. But again, that money was, if it didn't go to Erik Karlsson, it would have gone to John Tavares or whoever. Like, that kind of money was there. But then Joe Pavelski wanted a contract extension, and the big tipping, he wanted 3 years, $7 million, which is what he got from Dallas. And the Sharks were only going to offer him 2 years. If they don't sign Evander Kane, that $7 million, you could just pay Joe Pavelski type of thing. And I know they were worried about with his age, if he wasn't going to be able to kind of keep up the same production. And he's kept up the same production in Dallas, has not played better. But if you could have gone kind of in the year-by-year mode with Joe Pavelski with him, and then you're also not dealing with the mess that you're dealing with now. So I think that's the one. I mean, there's plenty of draft picks that they could have swung on and stuff like that. But you never know with those. Like, it's hard to be like, oh, they should have just drafted, player X, Y, or Z, because you never know what their development path is like in somewhere else. You get what I'm saying? Where it's like, yes, hindsight's 2020, and the Sharks that have just drafted Pastrnak was like, are we sure Pastrnak becomes like Pastrnak if the Sharks draft him and he goes to anyway? So, but I think the Evander Kane one, it wipes your hands of so many issues, and you don't have the issues that you deal with now. And, you would have that, if you want to keep re-signing Joe Pavelski to 1-year deals or whatever you want to do, like, yeah, that would be my pick. So before continue and get into some questions about free agency and Eklund and who would I go on a cross-country road trip with, got to take a quick break and talk to you guys about our friends over at of course, BetOnline. BetOnline has got you covered for all your betting needs and sports information. You can find the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including baseball. Of course, they've got UFC, MMA, boxing, golf, and NFL futures, which is always fun to bet on. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wager information, including live betting, esports, and scores. So head to their website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, next. From @NotLucaBaloney. Do you think the Sharks will actually get a top 6 forward or just sign a bunch of depth guys like previous seasons? this is tough. I think we will know more at the draft, to be honest. I hate to say this. The draft is going to be the time for the Sharks to be able to move a big contract where they can actually have some flexibility type of thing. I think they do want to add some secondary scoring. That was kind of what we heard coming out of the end of the season. You know, it was like we got to score more goals. We got to score more goals, right? I don't think they're going to be there. Of course, they can't afford the top tier guys and stuff like that. But like, I think they're going to try to kind of add some more pieces to the forward group. And I wouldn't be surprised if they signed a depth defenseman to just try to shore things up there as well. So again, it's going to be tough, right? Because you're going to be counting on some guys coming back. You're hoping LeBanc comes back and kind of can return to form. You're hoping Bordeleau and Eklund can, show why they were drafted and why they're highly thought of and can contribute there. You hope Dahlin is more like the guy we saw in the first half of the season than we saw in the second half of the season. So you are hoping a lot of things, and some of these younger guys to continue to take a step forward. Noah Gregor, if he can regress to the mean and actually, he had a bajillion great opportunities and was actually starting to put the puck in the net a little bit more at the end of the season. But if he can kind of regress to the mean of where he should be, that should be more secondary scoring. But, I think for them, if they're going to be kind of coupon shopping again this year and, trying to, and plus you never know with the whole Evander Kane situation, what's going to be happening with his cap space. But I think they're going to be in the mix for some guys, and we'll see. I think if they are able to move out a big contract at the draft, then yes, I think they're going to use that money to try to improve the team right away. So that's my answer, unfortunately. All right, let's get to the Bordeleau / Eklund part of the episode. So at 661 Hockey Fan asks, if keeping Bordeleau and Eklund on the Sharks the wrong move for next season, would you like to see them play on the CUDA and play with the 2020 draftees to gain that chemistry? I mean, I do see that, and like kind of loading up on your CUDA and let them kind of all draft and simmer and stuff there. But like, if they're good enough to play on the Sharks, man, I think they're just good enough to play on the Sharks. And, I don't know. I mean, that's my thing. If they're good enough to play, if they're good enough to make the NHL team and play in the Sharks, then let them play on the Sharks, because I just think that's more beneficial, is actually playing NHL hockey. And the nice thing now is, like, if they are struggling or something like that, you can just send them down to the CUDA for a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised if both of those players spend some time on the CUDA this season, just because it's a long season, guys hit walls, and sometimes, just playing on the CUDA for a couple of games can kind of help get your confidence back and stuff like that. But yeah, if they're good enough to make the Sharks, just let them play on the Sharks. That's my thing. So next question. At KN_N_U asked, with Eklund playing, I guess Eklund and Bordeleau playing in the tournament, the World Juniors tournament, are we worried about pushing them too hard? Tournament into camp into season sounds like a recipe for injury. There is that worry, especially and Eklund did play a lot of hockey last year going into the season, between the rookie development camp and, all, like, he played in every preseason game and stuff like that. There is that worry. But I mean, at the same time, I think just playing hockey is good for you. And, they're 19, 20-year-old kids. It's, they're going to be okay. And, you can still, if you're worried about pushing them and they need to rest and stuff like that, you can, not play them in preseason games and kind of like there's ways to kind of get them the rest they need to. So, and I, talking to Doug Wilson Jr., we did the interview with him on San Jose Hockey Now. And, he said playing hockey is the best way to get better at playing hockey. So, and I know it's especially with Bordeleau, where he's basically had their World Juniors kind of taken away from him in the past 2 years because of, a false COVID test and then actually getting COVID. And like, it's such an honor to these kids to play for their country and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think letting them play is, and it's hockey, man. It's you're going to get, people are going to get injured. They're going to get injured. And, I mean, it would be terrible for these guys to get injured, but like, you can get injured playing hockey. There's a bajillion ways that happen. So you can't worry about the fear of injury when you're playing hockey, or else you're more likely to get injured. So yeah, let them play. And then if they need some rest days coming back or something like that, like there's ways to kind of get rest with those guys. So next question I'm going to screw this up. Mikia Valenta _ if Bordeleau and Eklund play together for the whole season, who has a better shot at the Calder? This is a fun one. I'm going to say Eklund just because yeah, I'm going to say Eklund. I think because you're going to have the draft pedigree in it with a little bit too. And you could see him kind of being the guy who drives the line a little bit more than Bordeleau. I think Bordeleau can he's more than capable of driving a line, but I think Eklund's going to be the one driving that line. If it's Eklund, Bordeleau, and whatever winger, if they sign somebody or whoever they want to put with him, I think Eklund will be the one driving the line and probably kind of help to rack up more points on that line. But we'll go 60% Eklund, 40% Bordeleau. That would be the way I would kind of break that down. So, all right, last bit of the Bordeleau Eklund portion of the podcast. So, at Nerdy Nemo asked, if the Sharks did the thing and got Eklund, Bedard, Slavkovsky, would you survive the preceding excitement? So to do that, they're going to have to trade it to number 2. And I would assume they'd have to give away a Timo Meier to trade it to number 2. So I would be very, very sad to see Timo Meier go. It would be, and then that means they'd have to tank really hard next year. It would be a long season, but man, the thought of those 3 guys just kind of wrecking shop for a long time would be super awesome. And yeah, it would be very dark for the next 18 months. But then once you got through it, oh man, it would be, yeah, I would survive barely, but that would keep you going. So before we continue, I just want to take a quick break, let you guys know, of course, about the Locked On NHL show. It's got you covered for all your news, notes, information, all that. It's hosted by local experts Monday through Friday. Gets you guys ready for the draft, gets you guys ready for free agents, all the big stories in the NHL. So make sure you guys, as soon as you're done with this, go check out the Locked On NHL show. All right. Now we'll get to some more kind of fun ones here. At Cold Toilet Seat with 2 E's asks, my favorite Sharks jersey. Had to clarify, make sure this wasn't the Sharks jersey I owned, but my favorite one is actually the 25th and 30th anniversary jerseys with the gray. Those are just, unfortunately, I don't have one, which it's a real shame. But those are easily my favorites. I like the darker, like the new teal compared to like the OG. I mean, I love the OG jersey and stuff. I like the darker teal a little bit better that the Sharks have now. Least favorite is reverse retro. That is by far the worst jersey that the Sharks have ever put out, and it looked terrible. It looks terrible on TV. You can't read the numbers. They're just bad jerseys. It's the only bad jersey the Sharks have ever had. I also like the Stadium Series, so I have one of those. You can fight me on that as well. I will defend the Stadium Series honor. They're awesome jerseys. Go away. So, but yeah, the anniversary, the 25th and 30th anniversary jerseys, those are my favorite ones. So, at Bios Morse Code asks, what's the plan with the massive contracts we have? So for the Sharks, I think, like I kind of said before, I think the draft is going to be telling. If the Sharks are, I would assume Vlasic at this point, I think he's going to get bought out. So that's a kind of a big contract to help clear off the books. And then, if they're able to move a Brent Burns, and he still has value and stuff like that, but I mean, he holds all the cards. But if they're able to move him, that gives you a lot of free space to go do something. So the draft is going to be the big part of moving one of these contracts and seeing if the Sharks can kind of clear some cap space and clear some rooms to give them an opportunity to do something else. So if not, it's just going to be kind of hunker down and try to wait out some of these contracts and see if you can do something with them in the future. But I think the draft is we'll know more at the draft. So at Shig_gig asks, if you could get any coach you wanted for the Sharks, whether they were already on a team or not, who would you want? This is pretty fun. So yeah, I kind of, the way I took this is all the coaches are in a big pool, and the Sharks have the first pick of any of the coaches they want. So a couple names that came up in my head were Gerard Gallant, who's the Rangers head coach. He's kind of, he can be a handful personality wise, but he does a really good job as a coach and kind of getting a lot out of his teams. And, we saw with when he was with Vegas, and, we saw with the Rangers where, they have a lot of talent, but a lot of those guys haven't really kind of come into their own, but he's still got those guys to Eastern Conference Finals. And I think he gets a lot out of his teams. John Cooper, the Lightning coach, I think with him, he puts his players in the best position to succeed. Granted, they have some of the most skilled guys in the world on his team, but they've also sneakily dealt with a lot of injuries, to like Stamkos and those guys who've missed a lot of time and stuff. And that team just keeps clicking and keeps humming. And I think it's a lot to do with him. And again, like how he puts his guys in the best position to succeed. Another one would be Bruce Boudreau, the Canucks head coach, where he, is formerly of the Wild, where I think he just squeezes the most out of his talent. So he may not have the most talented team, but he definitely gets the most out of them. And I think, for the Sharks, where again, they're not the most talented team, but I think he could make them a playoff team with their talent and the way he kind of puts guys in position. And then Mike Sullivan, the Pittsburgh Penguins head coach. So, again, you have Sidney Crosby, who's, literally one of the greatest players ever, but like kind of the same thing where they've dealt with a lot of injuries and a lot of stuff. And, the whole Mark Donk joke where it's like, it doesn't matter who's in there, they're going to produce. And I think that's kind of a nice thing to see where, he, again, also is, I think it's the kind of the underlying thing is putting the right people in the right position to succeed. And all these coaches do that really well. So those would be kind of four guys I would, if there was a whole, open pool of coaches and you got the first pick. So those are the guys I would go with. So Andrew America asks, he has two questions. So if you have to road trip from San Jose to New York City with 3 current Sharks players, who's coming with you? All right. Tomas Hertl, because, he's always going to be in a good mood the whole time. And that's the thing, especially if you want guys that you can kind of like hang out and be in a good mood with and stuff. Like, you don't want, Hertl's always going to be in a good mood. I think you're always, you're going to have fun with him type of thing. I'm going to go with good guy Jasper Weatherby, who was in a car ride, famously had the story from where they did a drive from from Denver to back to San Jose when they had COVID. Again, I think it's just a good guy. He's going to, he's really interesting to talk to. You have plenty of stuff like that, I think Jasper Weatherby, he would be. And then I'm going to pick Mario Ferraro because you need someone who can control the music. Mario Ferraro is fun. He's going to have you laughing all the time. He's going to be able to control the music. You're going to be able to listen to good stuff. So I'm going to go Ferraro, Hertl, and Weatherby as my 3. Who I'm going to hang out with in the car for that long trip. So those are my guys. All right. And then Andrew also asked, if you're offered $10,000 to block a Brent Burns shots, but you're not allowed to wear pads, do you do it? I do have pretty good health care with my job. Ugh, man. Like, how far away is I don't know, man. 10 grand. 10 grand is a fair amount of money, but do you get to at least like try to protect yourself, or do you have to kind of stand there like jackass where you're just like kind of waiting for it? I'm gonna say you can try to protect yourself a little bit. So if you want to like go fetal position and maybe you can take it in the butt or like the puck in the buttocks. All right. I don't need you guys coming back at me with that, but yeah, I would do it for $10,000. $10,000 is a lot of money. So I could do a lot of stuff with $10,000. So yeah, I would do it. And then the final question, Epizerker asks, in Bark vs. Australia, it's established that in Rand McNally, hamburgers eat people. And in Lisa vs. Malibu Stacy, Abe Simpson makes a hamburger that takes a bite out of someone. Does this mean Springfield is in Rand McNally, or have the human eating hamburgers escaped to other lands? No, the Springfield is not in Rand McNally. I think this is more of a Jurassic Park situation where the hamburgers have left Rand McNally and are starting to make their way into society and eating people that way. So yes, that would be my guess, is that Jurassic Park situation. They've escaped the island of Rand McNally and are now terrorizing the people of Springfield and other places as well. So yeah, that'll do it. So actually, no, sorry, I had one. Did I have any other one? Nope, I think that was it. Okay. Thank you guys for listening. That was fun. So I'll try to do another mailbag maybe before free agency. We'll have to see the timing there, but it's going to be close. So if not, we'll probably do one after free agency. So thank you guys for listening. Of course, you can find the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can, of course, listen wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Odyssey, the whole deal. If you're on Apple, leave a 5-star review. Makes me feel good about myself. My wife will appreciate me more and love me more when I show her a 5-star review. So please do so. Of course, YouTube, subscribe. We're over 1,000. Straight to the moon, as those crypto bros say, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can find me on Twitter at my fry hole, and be back tomorrow. Got an interview with a Charlie Wright of the Saskatoon Blades, who's a draft eligible prospect. So we talk about, going through the draft process. We talk a little bit Tristan Robbins, of course. And so it's a good one. Make sure you guys check that out tomorrow. And then Thursday, William Eklund returns. So make sure you guys subscribe for that. You don't want to miss William Eklund coming back on Locked On Sharks. So you guys, of course, have a great Monday. Bye, friends.